Hello, all, and welcome to this session, my favorite budgeting app, YNAB versus Monarch. And the whole point of this session is to kind of explore these two powerhouse budgeting apps. I feel like every conversation on the interwebs is like, which app should I choose, YNAB or Monarch? And while there are others out there, I feel like these are the two like that stick out a lot. So we wanted, since we each have our kind of skill set in one versus the other, kind of like show you what the different experiences are like so you can make your best choice if you're using it, how to make the most out of it. And then while you're here too, if you want to put any questions throughout the session, drop them in the chat and we'll get to that as well. Okay. So for introduction's sake, my name is Prisca. I'm a money coach. I run Our Green Life and I help professional women create a plan for their money that allows them to live their best life now while also securing their dream future. And I do this by helping them create a custom plan for their money so that it doesn't make them feel anxious, so that it actually works every single time and that it's adaptable to their life. And I'm going to hand it off to Lindsey now.
Thank you. Yes. Hello, my name is Lindsey Ciarrocca. I am a YNAB certified coach and a certified money coach. And my goal is to help people learn to love budgeting, especially using YNAB, but also similar to Prisca, learn to use money as a tool to live their greatest life. I don't believe that money should be a burden on you, a weight on your shoulders. I want to lift that and teach you how to use money as the tool to get you there.
Yes, we align so much that way. I always tell people, I'm like, there's a lot of things in the world outside of our control, but this is one thing that we can absolutely control. Not that we have full control, right? But it's one of those things that we could very much manage our stress around it. So we're going to get started. So first off, we have a bit of an agenda where we're going to talk about some things that might come up for you when you're thinking about using these kind of apps. Talk about data security. We'll show you what it's like to experience these accounts. So Lindsey will show how you would add an account in YNAB, maybe different features also as well in YNAB real quick. And then I'll show you what it looks like on Monarch's end, what kind of hiccups you might experience, so you really know what you're getting yourself into, okay? We want to make sure that this is the right choice for you, whatever choice you make, whether it is using these apps or maybe you choose something else completely altogether, right? And then we're going to talk about the different features that we like of each app and then run through any questions you guys may have. All right. So first thing we're going to talk about is data security. Do you want to start with that, Lindsey?
Sure. Yeah. So I'll drop the link to YNAB's official security policy if anybody's really curious to dive into that. But I have been personally using YNAB for almost 10 years. Next year will be 10 years, actually, and have never had any issues with security. They link all of their accounts through a couple different providers. Plaid is the one that you probably be most familiar with. So if you have any other sort of institutions that link accounts, Plaid is a very common one. So it's where you basically log into your account's website, but it's just a read-only feed is what it pulls into YNAB. So it just pulls the transactions, it just reads things. You can't make payments or move any money or do any of those things. It just pulls the transactions and the data into the YNAB software.
And I like to Monarch is similar too. You will see that most often you use Plaid. Sometimes it'll be this other one called MX. There's different kinds of connections depending, because they will change the kind of connection depending on the bank sometimes to help maximize the fact that they stay connected. And the reason why data security tends to come up, I see, is because to use these apps at its best and to make it easiest for you, you're connecting your bank accounts. So when you go to add your bank account and it's going to ask you for your username and password, that could freak people out. Justifiably so, okay? The scammers are scamming out there. But my experience is similar to Lindsey, that I've never had a data breach through one of these platforms. And I've used other platforms before, Mint before, and this, and similar, I haven't had any issues. But it is something to be mindful about. You want to have good, like security hygiene practices in general. Sometimes some of these accounts will automatically disconnect after a period of time for security reasons. And I might be like, oh, that's so annoying. Let's see, when your money stays in your bank account, right, and nobody touches it, that's a great thing, okay? So it's an inconvenience, yes, but it's all for the safety of your finances. All right, so now, why would you pay for a budgeting app? That is a question that comes up a lot. It feels like for people that it's like, I'm trying to save money. Why would I spend money to tell me how to save? It's like, it sounds so backwards to them. Lindsey, why don't you share first why you chose to pay for a budgeting app?
Yes. So the thing I always tell people is I am probably one of the most frugal people you'll ever meet, and I do not pay for things unless I think they are absolutely worth it. And I 100% believe in YNAB and will pay for YNAB. So in case you, I don't think we mentioned this, but I'm Team YNAB, Prisca's Team Monarch. But I do have one thing that I actually prefer Monarch for, which we'll share with you later. But honestly, I feel like YNAB is, or whatever tool you choose, is worth its weight in gold. It's about $100 a year for YNAB, just depends on your state and the specific taxes as to the exact amount, but it's about $100 a year. And within YNAB, you can have multiple different budgets. So I have a personal budget and two business budgets within one subscription. So being able to keep that much information in my head is just not possible. Or in a spreadsheet, like Prisca said, like having the accounts connected is just genius to be able to keep your life easy. So for me, it is totally worth it to pay, and I am happily pay for and budget a line item for YNAB every single year.
For sure. As for me, like I get the feeling of like not paying for something at first. I used to use Mint and I loved it, you know, the pretty colors and all the things. But what I did find, not even on purpose, I think once Mint closed down and then I was like looking for something else and I'm deciding whether I want to go the free route or the paid route. What I did come across and I was like, this is so true. When I was using Mint in my debt payoff journey, but yet they're pimping out credit cards, personal loans, this stuff, right? Because they need to make their money. So they have ads in there that are like counterintuitive to what you're trying to accomplish. And so once I was like exploring my different options, I was like, I chose Monarch. It's also about $100 a year. They do give you 50% off the first year if you sign up. But I was like, oh, you think about all this times that we're always stimulated with ads and stuff like that. Like it's a space where literally that does not happen because you're paying for it. And so the other thing I do like as well is, you know, let's say something didn't work in Mint. Would you call customer service or email customer service to get that to? They don't care. You're not paying for it, right? So you won't get assistance. But literally, when I email Monarch, like, hey, I don't understand why this is not working, or think like you get an email back within a day and they are with you until you figure it out, you know, or they're like, okay, this is something we have to fix. We're going to put a ticket in for that. So it's very engaging. These are real people that are helping you with this. And it's not just about making cash through like selling your data or anything like that. That's another thing, another data privacy aspect.
Yeah, that's really a great way to think about it, is that you're paying for it either in dollars or in your being shown ads. So it's just kind of like, how do you want to do it? And yeah, that is a really great point, that it's just distraction free. You can go into YNAB or Monarch and not see any ads. Like, where else on the internet can you do that these days, right?
Seriously. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to put in the chat. In the meantime, Lindsey, show them the back end of what YNAB looks like.
All right. So this is the inner workings of YNAB. So the way YNAB works is it is basically a digital envelope system. So if you're familiar with back in the day when people would take an envelope, write groceries on the outside, and physically put cash inside of it, and then that's how much money they had to spend on groceries for that month. That is what YNAB is in a digital format. So you have each one of these lines is a category or your envelope, and you write on it. This is how I have clients set things up. You know, we start with your fixed monthly expenses, the mortgage, what day of the month it's due, and the amount. And then you can put money in there so you know how much you have available. The best part about this system is it's a real-time interactive system. So I like to explain budgeting as kind of like the old way of budgeting versus the YNAB way. So the old way of budgeting would be like, you sit down at the beginning of the month and say, okay, I expect to get paid $5,000. Here's how I think I will spend it. And then you put that piece of paper away for 30 days and don't do anything with it. You come back, you look at it, and you're like, okay, how did I do? At that point, you can't change anything. It's just, here's what happened. Here's the data. Hope for better the next month. The difference with YNAB is it is something that you should be using on a regular basis. And like I said, it's a real-time system. So as you come into YNAB and you have $1,200 for groceries, When you spend money, it will show you what's left for the month. So one of the kind of phrases to think about when you're using YNAB is find the money first. So before you spend something, you should be coming into YNAB, and there is obviously an app for your phone that you can easily pull it up and look and say, do I have money to buy this shirt? You come in, you check your clothing budget. If you have 20 bucks there, great. You can spend it guilt-free, knowing that all of your other expenses are covered. Or if you don't have that money there, that's when you have to make the decision of, well, either I don't buy this item or I move money from a different category, which is completely okay because it's your budget and it should be flexible as you move along. To add accounts, you would just go into add account. You pick your banking institution, whatever it might be. So let's just go with Capital One. Actually, I was going to say this one. Sometimes they will send you verification codes to keep everything secure. And then you'll see up here it's Plaid. And I obviously have a few accounts linked already. This one has you click the button to go directly to your Capital One site, log in, and basically allow permissions for YNAB to connect your account. So that's just kind of a little bit of an overview of how you add an account.
Are there any features you specifically love about YNAB that you'd like to show?
One that I find really helpful is the target feature, which the target is basically you're telling the system, here's how much money I would like to put into the category every month. So for your fixed expenses, obviously that's pretty easy. Like you're paying Netflix $23 every month. That's what you need to put in. The other way you can do, excuse me, a target is by a yearly goal. So for example, AAA membership, $132, and I need it by January. So no matter what month you're doing this in, if you're doing this now in March, or if you're doing this in November, the system will calculate how much you need to put into that category each month to be on track. And then if you aren't able to put money into a category that month, the next month it will recalculate to keep you on track to have that much money set aside, ready and waiting for that payment.
That's pretty cool.
So that you can stay on track and not be surprised when that AAA membership bills and you're like, oh no, I don't have $132. What do I do? Hopefully you'll have it because of your YNAB targets.
And I'm not familiar with YNAB either, guys. So I'm learning things here too. So when I'm looking at your available and it's like yellow versus green, like what does that mean?
Yep. So yellow can mean one of two things. Most what we're seeing here is it's showing you haven't put as much money into the category as you set your target to be. So it's a warning that says, so if you look at this little symbol, it's what's representing a pie chart. So it's saying you haven't put money in there this month. So like, for example, this AAA membership, we need $12.06. If I put $6 into this category, you'll see the pie chart increase just a little bit. Yeah, so it's saying that you need to put more money in there according to the target that you have set. If you have a green category, so like this one, for example, it actually doesn't have a target set on it. So that's why it's saying, so it's not giving you a warning that, hey, you haven't met your target because there is no current target. It's just saying, hey, you have $1,000 here in your emergency fund. The other thing to note is that this number up here at the top, what is called ready to assign, the goal is to always get this down to 0. So the idea is to give every dollar a job. So you're saying, do I need to put that money towards my YMCA membership? Do I need to buy groceries this week? What do I need to pay for before I get paid again? And that's how you can start making those decisions of where do I need to put money? What categories does it need to go in?
And we're both big fans of zero-based budgeting because it makes sure that you are very, very intentional with your money and you know exactly where it's going. So a lot of times people are like, you're trying to save what's left at the end of the month. And then the end of the month almost never comes, right? Because you find something to spend it on. But like when you get paid, you've already decided, okay, this is where the money's going to go, including your savings, that is part of your budget, then you always know where your money has gone, and it has been done on purpose. So that's the beauty of it. All right, thanks for sharing. I'm going to share what Monarch looks like on the back end. So there's some nuances, but a lot of it's very similar in terms of adding an account. So in terms of how you add one, you just go to accounts. This is a demo, by the way. So you go here and you click add account. I feel like it's very intuitive as well. You know, like just like, hey, you want to add an account? Go there. And they give you all the different options. This is, I think, really cool, where not only like bank accounts, credit cards, loans, but even real estate, crypto, company equity. Like I feel like they're always being innovative with what you could add here in order to make sure that you're getting like the full picture of your money. And then at other times where things don't connect, you may want to do it kind of manually, or even if maybe you don't want to like add an account by linking them that way, right? Let's say you are that risk averse where you would rather not, but you want to have an idea of what's going on with your money. You could add a manual account, or you could just put in the account with a CSV, which is like kind of like an Excel file that your bank would have that has the list of transactions. Not all banks provide this, but if yours does, this is how you could potentially do it. But adding a manual account is an option. You just say like what kind of account it is, and then it'll name it card, just how much is on there, and then you save it, and then that'll add to your profile. Okay, so that's how you add an account. Now, in terms of like how things look budgeting wise, so what I like about Monarch is I personally do my zero-based budget in a spreadsheet, and I use this kind of oversee what's going on. I really love like the big picture that I can find here. Like, hey, my target for my paychecks this month was this much. Where am I? I love these little bars. I feel like it's just so visually like, to me. And then even here, like based on how much income's coming in, it tells you how much you have left to budget. It tells you, hey, if you're in the green, then you know you could put money elsewhere if you so choose. The other thing I like is that there are options in how you choose to budget. So here, there's flex budgeting and then category budget. So category budget kind of fits more what you saw with the YNAB, where it's like, hey, we budget every category very individually, versus flex budget. And this was actually fairly new. I think it came in the last year. And I was like, ooh, this is exactly how my mind thinks when it comes to money. Like I don't want to call them generic buckets because it's intentional for me, but it's these big buckets. I'm like, hey, make my money go in this direction, and that's that. And the beauty of it too is that you can decide how you want to apply this. You could reset it if you want to, like, oh, I haven't used this in ages. Let me just start over and start from scratch. They even have a budget walkthrough, so it can help you set it up. So I just feel, you see the hand holding, like you don't get that with Mint. You know what I'm saying? Like, come on. So anyway, with the flex budget, let's take a look at how that looks like. I think every single budget will have certain things you need to know, right? Your income, very, very important. And then your fixed expenses. So here is where you put the things that happen every single month. And then again, you can see where you are on target with those things. The other thing is your flexible things, the things that happen, but like, who knows? Who knows what gas prices look like today? That would change what your gas budget might look like. And then you could easily come here and just like change what you want. You see these spaces here, this is where you would change it. The other thing I love here too, I forget that this exists because I'm so used to using it and just like seeing it from fresh eyes, is that when you're looking at like here, right, when I click on 450, it shows me like how in the past few months I've been doing. So it helps you create a real budget, right? Because it's like, oh yeah, I feel like I pay this, or I felt like I pay that. As long as you categorize things correctly, you will see exactly where you are, and then you could adjust your budget, right? Let's say, in the winter months, you're going to spend more on heat, you could adjust it, and then you'll see that. Also, with the flexible aspect, you can do rollover in your budget. So that way, let's say, like PSE&G in Jersey has this thing where it's like, oh, they could charge a set amount kind of regardless of the month, and that should cover you for the year, hypothetically. So you could kind of do something similar within your budget. Like, even though like maybe in the summer months you use less electricity, but in general, I spend about $125 every month. So you could put that in your budget as $125 every month, and then it'll roll over, and then you'll see that it's always kind of covered. It's just kind of fun. And then your non-monthly is the kind of stuff that Lindsey was talking about when she was talking about having targets for things that are going to come up, that's where this stuff fits in. And so things that this is where your sinking funds are precious, honey, okay? Because like medical expenses can come up. You want to travel. Like, how do we make sure that we are putting money aside for that so it doesn't catch us off guard? And then at the end of the day, at the bottom, again, how much is left to budget? It means you have to go up and fill all this in. Where do you want to put this money, including your savings goals? The other thing I just want to show you real quick is the goals section. So like for me, I know if I want to put the goal of an emergency fund, I just love this little emoji, the little fire extinguisher. So you go here and you say how much you want to put, right? So let's say $15,000. And then you decide you don't have to put a target date, right? Let's say listen, I'm just starting. I just want to I know what my target is, but I don't want to put any pressure on the time right now. You don't have to do that, but you could if you want. And then when you mark a transaction as spent from the goal, you could decide like, hey, like take it out of my budget, kind of is what this little button means. So you click continue, and then you decide what account is this emergency fund in, right? Because you do have it separate, right? You don't have it just in your checking account. I know you don't. So you're gonna let's say
in a high yield savings account.
Oh yeah, that's why I'm clicking on Ally. Okay? Ally is a great place to have it. So then you could put what's current, like if you want this $3,000, how much of that do you want to be your emergency fund? You could do that. Ideally, you want one account or one envelope, because Ally does have envelope options, to be your emergency fund separately, right? And so you could do that here and literally watch as you fill out your screen here. You'll see, hold on, let me just put $1,000 here. You'll see, hey, this is how far I am in regards to my goal. Okay. And then as it becomes part of your dashboard. Oh, look at that confetti. That was so much fun. You put that as part of your dashboard, and you can always see what you're allocating for your goals and how much progress you're making on it. And the last thing I want to show is the recurring tab, because it'll show you recurring income and recurring purchases. So the fact that you pay for insurance every month or your internet every month, it'll pop up here. And a lot of times too, it'll look at the date. If you sync it, you could even be more specific, but it really keeps you apprised of, hey, I have these recurring things. You could always just check it. Like, is there anything I want to cancel? Okay, because I'm in the canceling kind of mood today, And so that way, I feel like it really puts you on top of your overall picture. And now they have this fancy AI assistant that can also help. Like if you don't want to look for something, just, hey, I did this last week. How much did I spend on groceries in the last 6 months? And it just tabulates the whole thing. Like, oh, how cute. So that's the quick run through of what it looks like on the back end of Monarch. And the reports.
I do love a good report.
So when you it has like this ability to create like these charts that just look so appetizing to the eye. Okay. And so here you could see, I just love this thing. You see all your income, and it's, hey, here's your money, here's where it's going. And if you ever ask yourself, I don't know where my money's going, like literally this answers the question, like hands down, like no long list. It's just visually like, hey, this is exactly where this is going. I just love it. All right. Okay. That's my last little tidbit there. I'm obsessed with this thing.
Can I ask one clarifying question about
Monarch? Sure.
So for Monarch, you are still putting in for your income number that you're budgeting there. You're putting in how much you're expecting to get.
Correct? Yes. Okay. And then as the income actually comes in and it sees it, it'll adjust it. It's like, hey, you made your income expectations, or oh, you did not. It's like, nah, it won't sound like that, guys. But that is one of its features. Like you put what you expect, and then it'll tell you if you made over or under.
That's kind of one big difference between YNAB and Monarch, is that with YNAB, you can only budget the money you have. Mm-hmm. So if you have $20 in your bank account, or if you have $2,000 in your bank account, that's what you have to budget. So it's not what you're getting paid on Friday or what you expect to get paid next week. It's what do I have today? So that's really where it helps you start to get into that mindset of only spending the money that you actually have, not, well, I'm going to get paid money down the road. So that's
agreed. And I think that I love that you mentioned that, because I think that especially when you're first starting and you're figuring out where things, I think the YNAB fits a lot of people. Like for me, when I use Monarch, it's like I'm looking at the picture, but I already decided how I'm spending my money. Like I already have a spreadsheet that says the thing, right? But this is a way of looking overview versus if you're not having those kind of tight reins, you don't already have a system for your money. YNAB will make you systematize your money, right? And some people need that, to get started and to get into a rhythm,
Right.
So people love that app. Like it's like a lifesaver.
Especially like you're bringing in enough money to cover all of your expenses each month.
Yep.
So that's why it's not as critical to go line item by line item with every single transaction and categorize or have
exactly
individual categories. Whereas YNAB could be helpful for you if you need to figure that out. I was just talking with a client earlier today about first place we need to figure out is how much money do you bring in? And if once you set all the targets on all your accounts, that needs to be less than what you're bringing in each month, or else you're always going to feel like you're behind.
100%. So again, I think the big definer here is not to say like you could only use any of these apps if you fit in these two buckets. But I feel in general, YNAB works if you've basically never budgeted before or you haven't budgeted successfully before. Versus, I feel like Monarch, while you can do budgeting, but I feel like it's not going to make you do anything. It's very much like, oh, this is what you say you're going to make. This is what you say you're spending. Like it'll categorize the things, but it's not going to be like, hey, you didn't categorize all these, you didn't assign all these dollars. It's not going to, do it that way. Yeah. And for me, I was like, I didn't want that because I don't like to be all specific like that with my cash in this stage of my life. So those are the kind of things to account. And some people use YNAB forever. I'm not saying that, once you get to a level, then you graduate into Monarch. It just depends on your needs and what you like to use.
Yeah, the best budgeting tool for you is the one that you will use and that makes sense to your brain.
Agreed. And I was like, somebody did submit a question about like the fact that they have Monarch and they don't use it. So I hope that if you're here, then you're seeing the features so that you can actually take advantage and get excited about it. That way you can actually make good use of it. I feel like it helps me be proud of my money because I can see like the progress I've made over time. It's really exciting. Alrighty, so we kind of touched on this a little bit, but like tech issues, right? Because that's one of like a big like thing that people are just like, oh, this is so torture.
Yes, yeah. The accounts connecting or disconnecting is probably the biggest tech headache with YNAB. But like Prisca mentioned, YNAB support is fantastic. So you can always reach out to them and they will help you figure it out. Sometimes they, like she said, connections change, like on the inside of the institution. So YNAB can switch how it's getting connected on the YNAB end. So sometimes that fixes it. And YNAB also doesn't connect with all institutions. So if you have a smaller local credit union, sometimes it doesn't work with banks like that. I actually have somebody in Norway who doesn't connect to her local bank, but she is doing the CSV import to make it work. And there are some people that don't connect their accounts at all to YNAB. I know people that only do manual import, but I personally love having them connected.
Agreed. I think it's nothing to really add on this because Monarch works exactly the same way. Like sometimes you will need to reconnect. Lindsey just shared that YNAB has a 34-day trial. Like,
so they give you a full month that you do, not a 30-day, but 34 days. Yeah.
Yes. Is that through your link or is that in general?
That's in general.
Oh, that's fascinating. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yep.
And also the same thing with there's certain institutions that Monarch will not be able to. There's certain technology that's needed, and if your bank doesn't have that technology, it's not going to connect. But it doesn't mean you can't use these apps. You just have to do it a little bit more manually. So like I have like my car loan, for whatever reason, it does not update, right? So I just once a month I go in because I'm not trying to do anything active, mind you. I'm looking overall at my money, and so it sees the transaction coming from my bank account and says, oh, this is paying off the car note, but it doesn't update the loan because for whatever reason, that connection doesn't work perfect. So I just go in and I just update like once a month, like, hey, this is the balance. So I can see, my little chart going down that my car's getting paid off, but it is a little bit of a manual process. But you could create a system. Everything is systems, right? If no matter what's happening in life, that'll do it. Alrighty. Next, let's run over through some budgeting features. We did talk a lot about them as we were showing you the background of the systems that we use. But is there any other feature that you want to, of YNAB that you want to, what's that word called? Display?
Emphasize? Focus on?
Yeah, I don't know. The word wasn't coming to me.
Let's see. So we talked about annual expenses, having the targets for that so that the system does math for you. You don't have to think about it. highlight.
Yes,
There
highlights.
we go.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think I touched on most of these. Like, you know exactly what every dollar you have is meant for. So there's no guessing whether you have the money for the expense or not. You come into your YNAB budget, you look at it and say, look at that category. Like I said, do I have money for that shirt? Do I have money to go out to lunch today? Do I have money to go to the movies? You look at it and it will tell you right there. One other feature about YNAB is they have something called YNAB Together. So that is where you can budget with a partner, a spouse, or you can also even start your kids on their own budget. And so you each have your own login, and it will track basically, so you can see, oh, did I move money there? Did my husband do that? What works? How did things move around in the budget? So you can invite your spouse or partner to budget with you. And then also through that, like I mentioned, you can set up a budget for your kids. So you can set up a separate budget within your account. So your kids don't have to see your budget if you don't want them to, but you will get access to theirs. You share it with them and they can start budgeting. Maybe you have a 16-year-old who has their first job and you set them up with a budget with their whatever their 5 favorite things are to do. What do the 16-year-old kids like to do these days? I don't know. But so they can start to learn to budget, to save, spending only what they have, and that sort of thing.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So,
sorry. I was just going to say, I did kind of touch on this before, but there is the ability to have multiple budgets within one subscription. So like I said, I have my personal budget and 2 business budgets, and the demo budget, like all within one subscription. So you don't need separate subscriptions if you have a business and you want to do it through there. And then honestly, the biggest thing is it's just easy to move money around whenever you need to.
That's awesome. So I showed you too for Monarch that I love the flexible budgeting versus traditional budgeting. I love options. I'm a big fan of options anywhere in life, so more so with this. Also, like how to track recurring expenses quite easily. And then the reports view, I showed you how beautiful it shows like your income and where exactly it's going. So there's like no guesswork there. The goals tracker I showed you as well. But then rather recently, they shared the shared views feature. So this is fairly new for us in the Monarch Money community. So what happens is you can do, and this is my preferred way to budget as a couple, is his, hers, ours money, right? And you could basically make sure the transactions are labeled one, hey, this is Prisca's transactions, this is her husband's transactions, this is the family's transactions. And I just love that because I believe, okay, in the fact that money should be like that way when it comes to managing money as a couple. I think everybody needs to touch their money, to understand their money, and then to also be able to do things, put money aside for things you want for yourself outside of your relationship. So I think that's like my preferred way of like managing funds. No problem with anybody who chooses differently, but I think it's a great way to do that. Pros and cons. So what things would you say are pros of using YNAB?
So zero-based budget, like we mentioned, especially with, you can only budget the money that you actually have. So it really forces you to get detailed with, do I have the money for this or not? So you're working to start breaking that paycheck to paycheck cycle, working to break that spending more than you're making. That's a big one. And like I mentioned too, it's a real-time interactive system. So you know where you stand in the middle of the month. However, that is assuming that you are actually keeping up with it. It's not a set it and forget it system. You have to go in and categorize your transactions. It is a little bit more work to set up in the beginning because basically when you start categorizing transactions and you have a brand new account, YNAB basically has zero memory, let's say. Once you go in and say, oh, this transaction from Speedway is now gas, next time it will recognize that and automatically categorize it for you. You still have to go in and say, yep, that's correct, but it will start to learn. Once you start to categorize those as groceries, the system starts to learn. So it is great. It is because it is a real-time interactive system, but it's a real-time interactive system. So if you don't use it, for a week and you come back in, you might have 100 transactions depending on how frequently you spend, and that can be really overwhelming. So I really recommend, especially in the beginning, going in every single day. 5 minutes, you might have 2 to 3 transactions to categorize. It just builds that habit and gets you used to categorizing transactions. That keeps things much cleaner and nicer and not overwhelming.
Gotcha.
So
when it comes to Monarch, to me, the big pros are kind of things I mentioned before, the reports, the goal setting. Even when I hit my halfway to retirement number goal, like it acknowledged that, sends me email, hey, you're 50% of the way. I'm like, oh, this is so fun. Like it just really keeps you motivated on your financial journey. Custom notifications. So like you could really decide like, hey, I don't want these push notifications. I don't want these emails, to really make it so, because the stimuli could be insane. And I'm like, you really bring it down. If you don't need to be on top of your money, then like in terms of like, I need to see every day what's going on, then you could really turn down the lights and the pressure and the stimuli on it. So that I love. And then also like when it comes to when you talk about transactions and stuff is coming in general, I felt like it was superior than my experience with Mint in terms of categorizing things. But you could also really put like little nuances and rules as to like to make things happen. So for example, Costco, it could be Costco pharmacy, it could be Costco the store, it could be Costco gas. So I put in a rule like, okay, most of the time when I go to the pharmacy, it is something that's less than $10. So if it's less than $10, automatically mark it as Costco pharmacy. But then I also have it like, hey, put it as a review. So that way, just in case that day I decide to spend more than $10 at the pharmacy, I could double check it and then then it will be marked for you. I get that email to say, hey, go check this and make sure that this is the correct category. Then I'm like, okay, within this range and this range, it's probably Costco gas. Because the odds of me spending less than $50 actually shopping at Costco is not likely, but I can bet you it's the gas, right? So then I set up that rule so that when it's in that range, hey, assume that it's gas and then make it so that I have to review it. And I just love, to me, that's so custom. I can't even deal. It's like the perfect little thing. So I don't have to think about this every month. I don't have to go back in and recategorize stuff because it learns. And if there's any reason why you're like seeing like, oh, maybe 2 months in a row it's categorizing something wrong, create a rule, shut it up. There you go. Problem solved for the rest of your life with it.
That is one thing that YNAB could do a little better, would be customizing their rules. So that is definitely something I would like.
It has a lot of nuances too. Like it's not even like what I said is like kind of like almost basic stuff. Like you could really customize things in there. The other thing I do love about it too is you can add notes. And so I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but sometimes you do kind of a random transaction and then like maybe a month or two later, you're like, what the heck was that for? And I'm like, I hate when that happens. I have to go look through my emails to figure out what the heck that was. I can go into Monarch, find a transaction, put a note, and then it's searchable. And I freaking love it. Okay. That way I don't have to like, my goal in life is to think as little as I need to. Okay. Especially for these things that are kind of like the minutia. I'm going to keep my brain power for my job, my family, like less so for these things if I can help it. And so that's why I love Monarch. That is hilarious. That's why I love Monarch.
Sorry, cattail. Story of my life.
Because it allows you to not have to be in the minutia. Okay. Again, if you can handle it. So we don't want to just do things for the sake of doing things.
Yeah, YNAB does have a memo feature as well, and I use it all the time, especially for things like Target, Amazon. Again, like your Costco example, like it could be anything. What did I buy at Target for $10 3 months ago? No idea. But yeah, they do have a great memo feature as well.
That's awesome. And is it searchable as well, the memo feature?
Yep.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
So they both have that advantage.
Yeah.
So
one of the other things that I forgot to mention was YNAB also has a loan paydown.
Yes, you did.
Simulator, that was the word.
Yes.
So it doesn't work for credit cards just because credit cards interest is calculated all kinds of wonky different ways. But if you have car loans, mortgage, any sort of just personal loans, any of those sort of things, you can put in one of those loans and say you have a student loan and you can play with it and say, okay, if I pay this much per month, it will calculate when you will pay it off. Or if you want to do it the reverse and say, I want to pay this loan off by the end of this year, it will tell you how much you need to pay to get it to make that goal. So that's really fun to play with when you're working on your debt pay down journey, to see how quickly you can pay things off and how much
That's
interest
for
you'll
sure.
save. Yeah, it shows you what interest you'll save too.
Yeah, that is a pretty unique feature. The only thing even remotely similar, but I haven't really played a lot with it, is like Monarch has a forecast kind of thing that you could do, but I haven't really played a lot with it because I like my stuff simple and I'm good enough. You know, what I've learned so far with it, I'm like, it's doing what it needs to do. But just know that it does have that capability as well. All right, this has been awesome. If you do have any questions again, please drop in the chat. In the meantime, I'm going to drop some of our links in the chat so you could connect with us. Lindsey has the Money Clarity podcast. What do you talk about on your podcast, Lindsey?
All kinds of different things. So my coaching, while I am a YNAB certified coach, my coaching involves also your relationship with money. So that's a lot of how you think about money, how you grew up with money. So we talk a little bit about money mindset, some of the deeper emotional inner work. I keep them pretty short because personally I like short podcasts. So they're all about less than 20 minutes. And they're just kind of snippets to help you think about changing your relationship with money.
And she also has a YouTube channel where she did link some of the videos in terms of like certain features of YNAB in the chat. So feel free to take a look at it. As for me, you can find me on YouTube as well. So here, my goal again is like to help women make money significantly easier, right? Take the pressure and the stress of money out. Mindset plays a big role in it. And I always like to share with people that I'm a very practical person. So the whole idea of mindset was like, ew, what the heck is that? You know, kind of thing when I first started getting into the whole money space. But then the clarity and the peace that came with managing my money well made it so I'm like, oh, everybody should do this. You know, like you could stress a whole lot less when you have your money together. So you could find me on Our Green Life in J. And is there anything else you wanted to add, Lindsey?
Yes, I have my one secret thing that I actually use and prefer Monarch for. So I actually, believe it or not, have a subscription to both YNAB and Monarch. I think Monarch started as just a, let me check this out to see what it's like, because I know people use it and people ask what the difference is. But the one reason I actually kept Monarch was for their net worth reports. Because while you can connect investments to YNAB, it doesn't keep the balances up to date like you would think they would. So that's a manual thing. So I actually use Monarch just for the net worth reporting. I link all the bank accounts, our investments. I have cash value for life insurance policies in there, our student loans, our mortgage, those sort of things. And it is, like Prisca said, it's really interesting to see that trend over time. So that's really fun to go in and look at. So that is the one reason I keep Monarch. Is it worth it for most people to pay $100 a year for that? Maybe not, but I do it.
Oh, one feature I do like too, if you get a chance to watch the replay in case you missed it, because I didn't point it out exactly, there's a savings rate there. So you can see based on your income and your expenses, how much are you saving every month? And I just think it's so like that savings rate to start from maybe being able to save very little and to start being intentional with your money and see that increase. Because the bigger that gap, right, between your income and your expenses, the better off you're going to be and the less stressful money is going to be. And so like being able to see like, oh man, now I'm saving 20% of my income. Like, how riveting.
I did just want to take a quick second to answer a couple questions that did come in the chat. One is, can you play with the software without hooking it to your bank? I don't want to hit the wrong button and accidentally send money anywhere. And yes, you can test out both YNAB and Monarch without linking accounts. But the other thing to note is that they're read-only connections. So you can't accidentally move money by doing something in YNAB or Monarch. It just reads the transactions that come through. You actually have to go to your bank account or your credit card to move money around.
Yes.
And then I think there was one more question we answered.
Oh, do they have a free version to try them out?
Yep. Yep.
And when we noted that Monarch has a 7-day free trial and YNAB has a 34-day trial, the idea is being able to look at your money, right? We would never advise you to pay money for something that you're not going to use. But if you're going to use it, then you're really going to see benefits from doing it this way. If you choose to like, hey, I prefer to budget pen and paper, I prefer a spreadsheet, those are all options as well. You don't have to use an app to manage your money, but it does give you significance, like in terms of the overall picture. You don't have to like guess or like, oh, I dropped this receipt somewhere, I forgot. Like all these things just happen so automatically that it makes life so much easier. So highly recommend, but if you want to explore all your tracking options, then I also have a YouTube video on that.
Yeah, honestly, I started with a spreadsheet that I made myself way back in the day because I couldn't find anything that worked for me in my situation. But now I cannot imagine budgeting without YNAB.
Agree.
If you are interested in checking out YNAB, I do have a free YNAB category setup guide and template. So that's one thing that you can check out. That's on my website, free resource if YNAB sounds interesting for you, or also all the videos on my YouTube channel as well.
Awesome. All righty. We'll close out here. Thank you guys so much for coming. I thoroughly enjoyed engaging with you guys in the chat. I loved the kitty cameo. That was wildly entertaining. Feel free to reach out to us if you have any other questions that we didn't answer here. All right. Have a good night.